Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's weekly watch list. Hopefully, you all had a nice, relaxing weekend and are looking forward to get back to trading this week. So, last week we did see quite a bit of selling here on the market overall. We'll start here with the ES futures, looking at the structure of this one. And we can see, due to the past, we were holding this 50 moving average very nice, so it's always a good place to buy the dip because we got bounces off of it many times. And it looked to be the case here as well. So we came down to the 50, bounced off of it, held it here again, and basically held it here again. But then on Friday, we did finally get that close below it. So this market is breaking its structure from its previous bounces as of now, so definitely could see some more selling pressure down to this -2 or even -3 ATR. As we look down here at the squeeze histogram, we are below that zero now, which we have not been for a few months, so definitely something to also to keep our eye on, which could lead to more selling pressure. But if we look at a weekly time frame, the overall structure is still very bullish. We did fall below the 8 EMA, but we are still trading well above that 21 EMA, so the weekly structure is still very solid. We have our stacked EMAs. Everything about that one is still solid, and I think that this market was very much overdue for a larger pullback or a consolidation period due to it absolutely ripping since the lows of COVID. So now moving on to the Qs here. Just like the ES, was actually holding that 21 EMA well here until Friday, where you got the close below it. Now our next support, I would say, is looking at that 50 moving average to see if that can hold, as it has here in the past as well. This weekly time frame, all it's doing is reverting back to that 8 EMA. We are getting the first darker blue bar in the histogram though, which means that you could easily get that reversion back to the 21 EMA before seeing a continuation with this market. Now looking at the Dow was kind of the lagging behind indice compared to the ES and tech basically. So we had this daily squeeze that fired to the downside, came down here to -2, bounced off of it, and it's basically just been pinging back and forth here. Finally got a lower low here on Friday once again, so definitely could see some more selling with this one, as well as we do have our histogram well below that zero line. And then looking at the weekly one on this one, so we have a weekly squeeze here. We're holding the 21 EMA as of now, and this will be a key one to watch, because if we get some closes below that 21 EMA in the weekly, the Dow could definitely see a lot more selling pressure down to that -2 or -3 ATR level. And then last but not least, we have the Russell. And the Russell was actually holding up reasonably well. So it's kind of sitting right around that 50 period moving average. So not a whole lot. I mean, it is below the 21, but not a whole lot actually going on with that one. Looking at a weekly chart here, its structure is still solid. We do have this weekly squeeze, but the histogram is below zero, but it is basically trading right at that 21 EMA. So now looking at a few sectors that are actually holding structure pretty well compared to the rest of the market. So let's look at XLY. This is the one that is actually still trading above its 21, has its stacked DMAs. So everything about this sector compared to the rest of the market actually is holding up very well. So if you want to look at a specific sector for looking long plays in this market, I think this is your best bet for the upcoming weeks, because there is not another sector that is trading above its 21 EMA with stacked EMAs at the moment. So this sector alone is leading me to believe that it is the strongest within the market. So now looking at the individual plays that I'm looking at for the upcoming week, I have some long plays and some short plays depending on if the market bounces or if we get some more continued selling. So the first one I will be looking at is Adobe. So you can see that Adobe has been just ripping here. Great structure to it, great trend, nice uptrend on it. We have our stacked DMAs. We're just starting to form a daily squeeze here, and we are holding that 21 EMA as of now. So once again, if the market rolls over, this one could easily just keep going down to the downside, but it is holding structure as of now, so we'll have to see how the overall market as a whole moves until we are actually entering into any long trades. The next one I am looking at is BNTX. So we do have this daily squeeze that's setting up with just a low compression. Came out of this media compression into a low compression. You can see it had a push up here to about +1, rejected that level, but also bounced off the 21 EMA as well. We do have stacked EMAs. Unfortunately, it is in a deceleration stage. So we'll be looking for this one to get some lighter blue bars or its histogram above that zero line before an entry, and hopefully price will fall back down to a better buy zone to get into this one, but its structure is looking solid. The next one I'll be looking at is Datadog. So this one at the moment is at an extended level where I do not usually look to get long, but we did have this gap up here and it has not filled it yet, which is showing me that this stock is strong as it keeps pushing to the upside. We have the daily squeeze here with 2 bars of light blue, which means we are gaining bullish momentum and have that bullish momentum, so that is looking strong. Ideally, you're looking for a fall to either that 8 EMA or even more ideally that 21 before looking long on this one, but its structure is very solid and is in a nice uptrend. So the next one I am looking at is Microsoft. So with the Dow looking really weak and Microsoft still holding its structure, that's a good solid stock for me to look long on if the entire indice itself is looking weak but the individual stock itself is holding. So the daily squeeze is setting up here nicely. Our histogram is still above that zero line. We are trading right around that 21 EMA with stacked EMAs. So this one is looking solid to me for another climb to the upside, as long as the Dow does not just continue to sell off, because then that will drag this down with it. So now the last one I'm looking at actually is to the short side. So first off, actually, let's look at the financial sector itself to get a view of why I'm looking at this to go to the short side. So if we look here, we do have a gap to fill on the daily chart here around, what is it at, roughly like $37. So that gap will eventually fill. We're looking like we're coming down to that gap, but it is holding that 50 period moving average. The low compression squeeze is looking to fire to the downside though, so I do think we could see some more selling pressure as we're trading below the 21 and we have no stacked TMA, so its structure is not holding up and could definitely see some more selling pressure. So that if we look within the financial sector and look at the individual stocks, it may be setting up as well to follow that to the downside. Morgan Stanley was one that did look good. So we do have the squeeze setting up with its histogram almost below that zero line. We're getting our closes below the 21 EMA. The only thing that I need to have change is the stacked EMAs need to no longer be there. And if we look here, they are very close to crossing over, which will not make this green anymore, and they will no longer be stacked. So look at this one early to midweek to see if we can get another flush to this -2 or even -3 ATR. So these are the stocks that I'm looking at for the upcoming week. Hopefully it gives you all a better picture of a few stocks that you can look at for yourself. And let's go out there Monday and start making some money.